This is live from New Delhi. You're watching TT India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Sakal Bhatt, and coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is in Laos for the ASEAN mechanism meetings, holds talks with his Filipino, Timor-Leste and Cambodia counterparts. They're taking India's Act East policy forward in its 10th year. The Kremlin agrees to open talks with Ukraine, says needs to understand Kyiv's readiness for dialogue. Meanwhile, military attacks and counterattacks continue unabated between the two sides. And Russian and Chinese strategic bombers jointly patrolled near Alaska on Thursday, prompting the US and Canada to scramble their fighters. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is in Vientiane to take part in the foreign ministers' meetings under the ASEAN framework in the format of the ASEAN-India, East Asia Summit and ASEAN Regional Forum. Minister S. Jaishankar reached Laos on Thursday to participate in the ASEAN meeting. He expressed anticipation for strengthening ties with the bloc as India celebrates a decade of its Act East policy. The meeting of the foreign ministers from the ASEAN will be followed by two meetings in Vientiane, Laos, PDR between July 25th to July 27th. They are set to address key global issues that will be attended by officials from United States, European Union, Japan, China, Russia and more. External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, is also holding meetings with his counterparts from other countries in Laos. He met his counterpart from Philippines, Enrique A. Manalao. Both the leaders discussed strengthening the relationship and partnership in Indo-Pacific with a view to uphold rule of law and ASEAN's centrality in the region. External Affairs Minister also met Foreign Minister of Timor-Leste, Bendito Friatias. While they focused the discussion on their views and priorities in Indo-Pacific region, they also exchanged views on issues of mutual and regional cooperation. UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy visited India on Wednesday. Speaking on this, India's Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson has said that the meeting happened a month of his swearing in, adding that both sides recognize positive movement on FTA negotiations and hope for mutually beneficial outcomes.
We had the visit yesterday, the official visit of UK Foreign Secretary. This has happened within 1 month of the swearing of the new government in UK, and it speaks of the kind of commitment that is there on both sides and on the UK side as well on strengthening this partnership. UK Foreign Secretary met with the Prime Minister, called on the Prime Minister. He also had a meeting with external National Security Advisor and then bilateral discussions with the External Affairs Minister. Both sides recognize that positive movement have happened on the FTA negotiations, and hopefully both sides will take this forward.
India's External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Randir Jaiswal during the weekly media briefing said that around 6,700 Indian students have returned back to India from Bangladesh following the unrest in the country.
So far we have had over 6,700 Indian students who've come back from Bangladesh. We've received excellent cooperation from the Bangladeshi government. Our High Commission has arranged for their safe and secure travel to the border crossing points or to the airport, as the case may be. They also have several helplines. Both our High Commission and our Assistant High Commissions, they are operating 24/7 helplines, and all the people who are there are students and are nationals. They can reach out to them, and they have been rendering whatever assistance that has been requested for.
Reacting to India's West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee's recent remarks on offering shelter, the government of Bangladesh has raised strong objections with the Indian High Commission. MEA's spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal also said that the conduct of foreign affairs and all matters which bring union into relation with any foreign country are the sole prerogative of the union government.
I can confirm that we have received a diplomatic note, a communication from the Bangladeshi side protesting the comments made by Chief Minister of West Bengal. It is essentially on the lines that you would have seen in the reports that have come out today. Again, I would like to underline that under the 7th schedule, List 1, Union List, Item 10 of our Constitution, the conduct of foreign affairs and all matters which bring the Union into relation with any foreign country are the sole prerogative of the Union government.
During a rally in Kolkata, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee on 21st of July had spoken on offering shelter to the people of Bangladesh witnessing violent student-led protests demanding reforms in quota system to government jobs recruitment. Let's move on to some other news now. Moving on to Russia-Ukraine conflict, where the Kremlin on Thursday has said that Russia is open to negotiations with Ukraine on ending the conflict, but needs some clarification on Kyiv's willingness to engage in such talks. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters that Moscow was ready for negotiations and that various formats for such talks were possible. And as the Russia-Ukraine conflict entered 881st day on Thursday, Ukrainian forces have destroyed 25 Russian attack drones out of 38 launched overnight. Ukraine's Air Force chief said Russia used 38 Shahed 131, 136 attack drones, attacking Ukrainian infrastructures in several areas, including the south of Odessa region and central Ukraine. The Air Force chief also said that 3 other drones were lost after crossing the state border with Romania. Romanian territory is just a few hundred meters from the Ukrainian Danube port of Izmail in Odessa region, which was attacked by drones for the second night in a row. Odessa governor said 2 people were wounded when drone debris hit a private house in Izmail. China and Russia have organized joint air strategic patrols with nuclear-capable bombers over the Bering Sea on Thursday, according to an annual military engagement plan. China's defense ministry says it deepened strategic mutual trust and coordination between the two militaries and did not target any third parties, adding it had nothing to do with the current international situation. Russia's state news agency also reported that Russian and Chinese military planes conducted joint patrols near the U.S. state of Alaska, citing the Russian Defense Ministry. The planes did not violate the airspace of other countries, said the Russian agency. Russian President Vladimir Putin met Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in Moscow to discuss what the Russian leader described as an escalation in the Middle East. The meeting on late Wednesday comes at a time when Russia, which saved Assad's government through its military intervention in 2015 during a civil war, could mediate to diffuse tensions between Syria and Turkey. The first meeting of the two leaders since March last year comes after Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan evoked the possibility of the three leaders meeting to try and normalize ties between Ankara and Damascus. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in Washington calling on the U.S. to continue to support his country. He spoke to a joint session of the U.S. Congress on Wednesday ahead of talks planned with U.S. President Biden. However, there were protesters who gathered outside the Capitol to demonstrate against Netanyahu. Here's Caroline Meloni's report.
Well, Free Palestine was one of the strongest messages that protesters were calling for in their big demonstrations that were happening just outside the US Capitol on Wednesday. Different groups gathering in different parts of the US Capitol, some at the main train station, some directly next to where Congress was gathering for a joint session to listen to the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu giving his speech at 2 p.m. in the afternoon on Wednesday. In that speech, he called for bipartisan support from the US to Israel to try and make sure that the US continues, both in word and militarily, to supply what Israel feels that it needs in its fight against Hamas.
We meet today at a crossroads of history. Our world is in upheaval. In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends. This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization. It's a clash between those who glorify death and those who sanctify life. For the forces of civilization to triumph, America and Israel must stand together. Because when we stand together, something very simple happens. We win, they lose.
But increasingly, though, we are seeing these types of protests around the country, and people have traveled to Washington from different parts of the US for these protests, from the West Coast, from Michigan, from other states. We've seen it in primaries in which people decided to vote basically against Biden's policy of supporting Israel over the last few months, and increasingly concern over the number of civilians who are being killed in Gaza, the death toll on Palestinians, the impact on the education, on the health service, on everyone that is continuing to live there under very difficult conditions. You know, overall, though, the message from Netanyahu was that it's important for the US to continue to support Israel because Israel is the strongest ally that the US has in the Middle East, and that it's important to keep a united front against enemies. He didn't specify which enemies, but we can imagine, you know, there's a lot of different groups that are not in favor with Israel right now, not just Hamas, but affiliated groups, Hezbollah, and of course Iran is a big concern as well. Caroline Malone reporting from Washington for DD India.
Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House on Thursday to discuss progress towards a ceasefire in Gaza and a hostage release. Vice President Kamala Harris is also scheduled to hold a separate meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. These high-level talks are part of ongoing diplomatic efforts to end the Gaza conflict. US President Joe Biden has explained his abrupt departure from the 2024 presidential race in a televised national address from the White House. His address comes after weeks of pressure from Democrats for him to step aside since his June 27 debate against Trump. At one point, he was adamant and had said that only the Lord Almighty could convince him to go. However, with his departure, US politics has taken on a new form, driven by women as the progressives' new torchbearers.
US President Joe Biden cited his concerns about the future of US democracy and said that he was stepping aside to allow a new generation to take over.
I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation.
In his 11-minute speech, Biden again alluded to the threat that he believes Donald Trump poses to America's democracy and said that defense of democracy is more important than any other title.
I revere this office, but I love my country more. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think is more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American people. But this sacred task of perfecting our union is not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we, the people. We can never forget that. And I never have.
In a signal perhaps to the Democrats, Biden once again signaled his unwavering support for Vice President Kamala Harris.
In just a few months, the American people will choose the course of America's future. I made my choice. I've made my views known. I would like to thank our great Vice President Kamala Harris. She's experienced, she's tough, she's capable. She's been an incredible partner to me and a leader for our country.
Countering the Republican narrative that he is going to be a lame duck president for the remainder of his term, Biden listed out his priorities, including defending the right to vote and right to choose.
We'll keep rallying a coalition of proud nations to stop Putin from taking over Ukraine and doing more damage. We'll keep NATO stronger, and I'll make it more powerful and more united than any time in all of our history. I'll keep doing the same for our allies in the Pacific. You know, when I came to office, the conventional wisdom was that China would inevitably surpass the United States. That's not the case anymore. And I'm going to keep working to end the war in Gaza, bring home all the hostages, and bring peace and security to the Middle East and end this war. We're also working around the clock to bring home Americans being unjustly detained all around the world.
Biden will conclude his White House tenure on January 20th, 2025 as the oldest American president when he will have already turned 82. DD India.
And still to come on this edition of DT India Live. Coming up next, this is what we have for you. Taiwan conducts a live fire drill during their annual war games in northern Matsu Islands. India gears up to pay homage to martyrs of the Kargil War 25 years after the conflict with Pakistan.
We simply throw things away when we're done using them, be it a cup, an old shirt, or a used battery. But we can do a lot better. Let's find out how.
I thought I can get a bunch of people together and we can just create this beautiful product while not being wasteful, while paying people correctly, while not throwing things into the garbage can.
Our goal is to recover 95% of our nickel, which is the most expensive, most valuable ore, including aluminum and copper, of course.
We are successfully managing waste in this small town with a limited number of people, resources, and market. If we can do that here, it would definitely be possible in larger towns that have many advantages over us.
You're watching DT India Live. I'm Sakal Bhatt. Taiwan on Wednesday conducted a live fire drill during their annual war games in northern Matsu Islands. This year's annual Hung Kwang exercise went ahead with the mixed artillery company preparing and firing live ammunition. The exercise, which began on Monday, has been severely curtailed by the impact of Typhoon Gaimi. Live fire drills take place on Taiwan's outlying islands, including Kinmen, Matsu and Fenggu, which sit nestled next to the Chinese coast. And with them, Taiwan is apparently trying to demonstrate its self-defense capabilities and determination. China has been staging regular exercises around the island for 4 years. North Korea has sent approximately 500 balloons filled with trash into South Korea's airspace within the last 24 hours. Now, according to officials in South, the balloons have disrupted flights and caused fire on the residential building's roof. In recent weeks, similar incidences have disrupted operations at South Korea's Incheon International Airport. The balloons are part of an ongoing propaganda campaign by Pyongyang against North Korean defectors and activists in the South. As of Thursday, 480 balloons containing mostly paper and plastic trash were reported to have landed in the country, with some found near Seoul's heavily guarded presidential office as well. Operations at Taiwan's main international airport slowly returned to normal on Thursday after Typhoon Gaimi passed the island a day earlier. Many flights continued to be cancelled, although several were rescheduled or delayed. Typhoon Gaimi made landfall on Wednesday midnight on the northeastern coast of Taiwan, killing 3 people, triggering flooding and sinking a freighter off the coast of Taiwan before barreling towards China. It is the strongest typhoon to hit the island in 8 years and was packing gusts of up to 227 km per hour before weakening. Around 500,000 households in Taiwan have suffered power cuts on Thursday. The typhoon is expected to bring more rain across Taiwan in its wake. Heavy rains pounded India's western Maharashtra and Gujarat states on Thursday, forcing residents to move out of the houses. Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde took stock of the situation. The BMC or Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation has declared a holiday for all schools and colleges. Ulas River is flowing well above the danger mark, while several areas like Kalyan, Thane, Bhiwandi, Nalaspora were flooded. India's Meteorological Department has issued a red alert warning for Mumbai. Teams of NDRF and Indian Army have reached Pune's Ekta Nagar to rescue locals stranded in inundated areas. Local police has also been deployed in low-lying areas to shift people from low-lying areas to safer places. Meanwhile, residents in the western Gujarat state were evacuated as heavy rains continue to lash the state. Several rivers are flowing above danger level. People are facing issues as rains disrupted all forms of commute. The Weather Office has issued a warning predicting extremely heavy rainfall in the western region for next 24 hours. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit the Kargil War Memorial on the occasion of the 25th Kargil Vijay Divas on 26th of July. The Prime Minister will pay homage to the bravehearts who made the supreme sacrifice in the line of duty on Friday. Prime Minister Modi will also carry out the first blast of the Shinkun La Tunnel project virtually. The Shinkun La Tunnel project consists of a 4.1 kilometer long twin tube tunnel which will be constructed at an altitude of around 15,800 feet on the Nimu Padum Darcha road to provide all weather connectivity to Leh. Once completed, it will be the highest tunnel in the world. Shinkun La Tunnel will not only ensure swift and efficient movement of our armed forces and equipment but also foster economic and social development in Ladakh. Rashtrapati Bhavan of India's, that's the President's house, the office and the residence of the President of India, is a symbol of the nation and an invaluable heritage of the people. Venues for different ceremonial functions at Rashtrapati Bhavan's iconic Darbar Hall and Ashok Hall were on Thursday renamed as Ganatantra Mandap and Ashok Mandap. Meanwhile, India's President Draupadi Murmu has successfully completed her 2-year term in office, marking a significant milestone in the nation's history. As the first tribal woman to hold this esteemed position, President Murmu has dedicated herself to serving the people of India. To combat the serious crisis of climate change, India's Ministry of New and Renewable Energy recently organized a workshop to promote green hydrogen and clean energy. The workshop focused on unlocking value from carbon market, praising efforts to enhance renewable energy budgets. India's Minister of New and Renewable Energy, Prahlad Joshi, thanked Prime Minister Modi and Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. India's Union Health Secretary Apur Chandra has launched a summary report on the economic case for investment in the well-being of adolescents in India. The report was unveiled at an event in New Delhi. Addressing the panel discussion on investing in adolescents, Health Secretary said that the government made several strides in advancing the well-being of adolescents in the country. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh visited the Embassy of Vietnam and paid condolences and tribute to India's government to the people of Vietnam on passing away of Vietnamese General Secretary Nguyen Phu Trong on the 19th of July. Trong had also served as 10th President of Vietnam. Delhi court on Thursday extended the judicial custody of Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal in money laundering and corruption cases related to the alleged excise scam. Special Judge Kaveri Baweja extended Kejriwal's custody in a money laundering case being probed by the Enforcement Directorate till July 31st. His judicial custody in a corruption case lodged by the CBI has been extended till August 8. An Indian delegation participated in a senior officials meeting to prepare for the 4th meeting of the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation's National Security Chiefs in Myanmar's capital, Naypyidaw. India is the lead country for security sector cooperation in BIMSTEC. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Sakal Bhatt from all of us here in Delhi. Thank you for watching DD India Live.